Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Doesn't matter what time you're listening to this or whereabouts you're listening or on whatever device. Welcome once again to the Titus and Sergio Variety Hour podcast. And a special big shout out to all those listening to this on the Optus World Cup app. Because obviously that'll be just travelling beautifully. I'm Sergio Paradise, and here he is, direct from Russia himself. It's Titus O'Reilly.
We're going to get to Optus. That's been that kept me most amused over the weekend.
I got to say, the last couple of days,
and frustrated.
Yeah, it hasn't affected me directly, but just following it, it's just been magnificent. But yeah, we'll get to Optus in a minute.
We should begin by thanking our supporters who keep this podcast going. If you want to become a supporter, go to titusoreilly.com. There's a supporter section there, and you can sign up and help us out a bit to keep this on the air. We got nothing to plug today at all, do we?
Nothing whatsoever. I think you got no more gigs. I mean, there may be a few later in the year.
I've got a few coming out, and we're talking about taking the podcast on tour as well. I'm going down to Hobart at one point, but I haven't announced that yet. Yeah.
We're at the Museum of
Modern Art.
Modern Art. You could do a bit of performance art.
Yeah, that's right. Well, did you hear the guy this week who, as part of Dark Mofo, got buried under a road in a shipping container, a busy road in Hobart, and then it was resealed and cars drove over it for 3 days, and he had like water down there and an exhaust system, but that was about it. He had no food.
I saw somebody on Twitter suggest that this performance of his was the perfect allegory for actually living in Hobart.
See, I thought, burying a performance artist is a good start.
Well, exactly.
That's every bit of performance art I've ever seen, I've thought, I wish someone would put this in a shipping container and bury it under a road.
It's like that bloke who does his best work in New York. He'll do that. He'll put himself in a coffin or something, or, just for days at a time.
Yeah. So I thought that was, and they were complaining about the traffic, and I thought it's been backed up. There's 7 cars backed up in Hobart.
How do they get him out? When do they get him out?
It was 3 days, so I think he's out now. I think it was 3 days he was in, and I think he went in
really
on Friday,
to cause
maybe.
A stir as a performance artist. When they dug him up, he should have been dead.
That's right.
There you go. Top that.
Well, the other thing I thought interesting is they had all these pictures of all these workmen ripping up the road to put the thing in. And I think this is typical. People are watching this in Hobart going, right, so I've got a pothole out the front of my house for a year. Can't get a crew out here. I should just say it's a performance arts piece.
I'll just go and lie out in the middle of the road.
Yeah, don't go to the Roads Authority. Go to Arts
Dressed as
Tasmania.
a Star Wars character out there, you'll get it done in no time.
It's often said, but it was true on the weekend. Massive weekend of sport, like every sport. Like if you were like you and I, probably
watched it a lot. I've got to say on the weekend.
Yeah, I had at one point on a Saturday night. I had every TV in the house on, every iPad, every phone. Yeah,
sports.
I had every. It was. I had
that's
every,
good going.
So I had At one point, I had the Socceroos going on the big screen. Yeah. I had on an iPad. I had the AFL game. On my phone, I had the Wallabies. Yeah. And on my laptop, I had the cricket.
She's lucky you live alone, quite honestly.
And so I'm just
not many
sitting there going,
get away with that.
How good is this?
Yeah, good
trying to watch it all.
And you got Uber Eats delivering you whiskey.
That's right. It was a perfect night. But it was a frustrating night. Socceroos a bit upset over the video assistant referee, which I thought, given what we're having in the AFL with our review system, this is just more nonsense. People were pretty upset. And look, the penalty that came off that was sort of potentially there, potentially not. It wasn't completely conclusive.
Yeah, I did watch this game Saturday night. I think it's possibly the first full game of soccer/football I've watched since possibly the last World Cup.
Yeah.
So naturally I was across everything within moments. Although I still to this day cannot watch a game of soccer and immediately pick up when someone's offside. I've had it explained to me 100 times.
Oh, really?
And I have mates go, he's watching, goes, no, mate, he's offside. He's offside. But, is he? And I pretend that I realise he is, but I still don't get it.
Well, you did struggle with weight for age in racing too, so we're not saying...
And I did suggest that harness racing, they started with all the fastest horses up the front.
Yeah, so there's a few things here, there's a few gaps in your knowledge, but the thing I find So I'm a football fan, go to A-League all the time and stuff, so I actually enjoy football. But I must admit, I find the World Cup, especially where all the matches singly mean so much, the frustration, like after Italy in 2006 and this, you just look at it and go, I can see why people hate the game because it is... I mean, all sports have this to an extent, but because scoring means so much in football, it just means so much more than... Like, you give up one goal to a bad free kick in Aussie rules. Look, it can decide the game, but it's not
and more often than not, it's just part of the game.
Yeah, but in football, that was France were lucky.
Yeah.
They got lucky. I mean, we played really well. I mean, I'm not saying we necessarily played better. It was at times we were really under attack, but it just robbed us of a chance of probably a tie was a fair result.
1-1 would have been huge, actually, for Australia.
Oh, massive. So,
and then that Peanut Hernandez has come out after the game and openly admitted to exaggerating and diving.
Exactly. Like, this is the thing. But
this is the thing what makes everyone so mad, me included.
This is like, there's certain things like. And it's consistent because AFL fans have absolutely gone rants and even Buddy a little bit over the weekend for staging.
Yeah.
I think most sport fans hate staging in any way. And in football, it's just so obvious. Yeah. They don't even, they go down like they've been shot,
And then you see the replay and you go, mate, you didn't touch him.
Yeah.
And they're calling Hernandez now the rants of France. But this is what makes it really annoying, and I would really love to have seen Australia get up and beat France, especially not just because it would have been an Australia win. I mean, it's a great underdog.
Yeah, but they were flopping around like nothing else.
Shocking country. France. I mean, have a look at them. Let's go.
Here we go.
Their last.
Hang on. Later on, we've got someone who wants you to go off tap about something. Do you want to park France for that bit?
Look, I'll do it now, and you can refer back and replay. France. You have a look at them. Their last successful act of aggression was blowing up the Rainbow Warrior. That's how good they are. If the mark of the toughness of a country is going head-to-head with the anti-whaling lobby. That's about as good as they get. They can get stuffed, France, and everybody in it.
Right, spoken like a true World Cup fan.
So I would have loved to have seen Australia get up. But as you say...
That's what I love about the World Cup. It kind of, you can use racism, but it's justified briefly for once every 4 years.
Yeah.
It's go with the national stereotypes.
Yeah, you can take your baguettes and your stripy T-shirts and your berets and your diving.
Your mimes.
Your mimes. Actually, I wouldn't mind seeing the French. I wouldn't mind seeing a mime.
Well, a lot of them were miming being tackled or being shot in the game. So it was ridiculous. You'd have to say the Socceroos played above what most people thought, but you do get a bit sick of the Socceroos having brave or gallant losses.
Gallant defeats.
Australia as a country doesn't really accept gallant losses too often.
No.
We start to get a bit... we
don't take on the international stage. We expect to win. Doesn't matter what the contest is.
Well, we shouldn't have expected on the weekend because we also had David Warner popped up to commentate in the cricket, and we lost that one as well. And I saw an article this morning saying this just shows why we need to get David Warner as soon as possible back in the one-day side. I'm like, hang on. We're in this mess because of him. Yeah.
So you want him back on the field just to get him out of the commentary box?
Well, I can understand that completely. That was kind of terrible. Stuart Butler wrote, Titus, with Australia losing the second test against Ireland, this is in the rugby, the Socceroos going down to the French and the cricketers losing the second one-dayer. Have we finally reset the benchmark for darkest day in Australian sport? And how is James Hird responsible?
So, darkest day in Australian sport, he had me there. Yeah. But then being able to weave in the responsibility of James Hird.
Yeah, well, I blame both James Hird and Carlton.
Yeah.
That's why I always like to be able to blame both of them. The thing about it as well is Hawthorn won. Yeah, concurrently, we had all our Australian national sides go down. This is why I much prefer the Matildas. The women are getting it done on the national stage, but our men are hopeless. Yeah, and then Hawthorn won as well. So it was just a loss all round for everyone involved.
There were no winners.
Ashley Warner said, is the AFL mad at the World Cup for stealing its initiative of terrible systems for goal or incident reviews?
Well, it's a fair comment. I mean, the first one, the penalty to France, as you said, it was very arguable at best.
Yes.
The only thing that, when they got their second goal, France, to the naked eye, it sort of looked like the ball may have bounced
out.
Yeah, on the wrong side of the line. But unfortunately,
it was very clearly in.
It was clearly in. And this is where they had like a camera directly above the goal.
Yeah.
And from both sides. Something, again, which the AFL might want to look at, perhaps, rather than a couple of GoPros.
Well, the best one of
the fence.
The best one we were talking about last week. The best one was the one last week where they reversed it. It was a point and they changed it to a goal. And then later on they said, why was this? And the guy goes, I was looking at the wrong player. Like, seriously.
Yeah, mate.
Like, terrible. Gary Burke wrote, should diving be included in all sports to avoid misunderstandings? Should a point system be included as well? That's another way. I reckon they should just... I thought this with the AFL too. With staging, I don't think it should be a fine. I think it should be a week off, and I think they should just be red hot on it. Yeah. Because it will just stop it. The players adjust. They'll just go, we won't do this
anymore.
It will
stop them. It was a bit like last year. It took them a couple of weeks, but the jumper punch thing, as soon as they rubbed somebody out, miraculously, not one player jumper punched another for the rest of the season.
Except for their head of multiculturalism in a suburban match.
Except in the office. But the diving thing, but would that work in soccer, in international soccer? It just happens so often.
Look, every sport, this isn't soccer bashing, every single sport has something that needs like a blight on it, you know, and at the moment, for a long time, that's been a problem for soccer. It's this, you know, and it is something.
And there is a difference between diving and exaggerating something for a free kick.
Yeah.
I mean, I was arguing about this with a mate of mine the other week when they were having a crack at rants. I said, look, I remember when we were kids at primary school.
Yeah.
And we would try and emulate Kevin Bartlett, who...
Well, that's never a good thing.
Yeah, but he was the master of, throwing the ball out in front of him a millisecond before he got tackled and then throwing the arms out. That was his genius. That is exaggerating to get a free kick. But it's not like jumping on the ground.
No one touched you.
No one's touched you. There is a big difference.
No, I think that's when you... But it does... The reason it's more significant in football, is what we were saying earlier, is though scoring is such a premium. So the impact of it is so much bigger. Yeah. You know, so that's where
especially in the penalty box. I mean, you know, it's just can be absolutely brutal.
Grant Hay wrote, was the AFL happy with the last touch out of bounds trial in the Socceroos game last night on Saturday night?
Well, it worked. You have to say it worked reasonably well.
Don't get us started.
Were the Hawthorn players, did they trial that as well? Or?
Well, if Clarko wants it, it will come in. Yeah. You know, he'll just call the AFL down to run a special session. Yeah. These are the rules I want to happen. Now, a lot of people, we mentioned this up front, a lot of people who were trying to watch the World Cup. Now, it was all right with the Socceroos game for most because that was on SBS. But we're getting one game a day on SBS. The rest is just on Optus. Yeah. So you can get it through your Apple TV and various things if you pay.
Did everybody sort of know this well in advance?
Not everyone. I mean, I'd read about it but I think you kind of had to go searching. I think a lot of people assumed SBS would have it all
until
or
it would be on
Foxtel at least.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought. I was flicking around just the other night going, what's it, Fox 1, 2?
Yeah, so you can watch it, like, there's nothing better than getting all your mates around to watch the football on your phone.
On your phone, yeah.
But you can project it or have it on, there's apps for smart TV and all that stuff.
You've got to have an HDMI.
This is the thing, it's another thing you need to have for everything, but at the same time, so anyway, that's what they had. Now, and you have to pay, so that's something that a lot of people but where it's come a cropper is, if you're going to charge people for that and it's the only way they can get it, then you better be able to show it. Now, Optus, because it's streaming over the interwebs, and Australia doesn't really have great internet.
Dark net,
has it's just fallen over every night, pretty much every single night.
And even the head of Optus is weighing in, saying,
the CEO's come out and said we failed, we apologise, and it's got my personal attention. I thought, unless you know,
it happened tonight, and then of course it did. Yeah.
And he's like, it's got my personal attention now. And I said, well, it would have been better if it had your personal attention like before, when you took everyone's money. Yeah. I mean, I'd be interested to see how they go and having to refund people because it's been unwatchable for the first, 3 nights basically.
And a lot of like senior Australian football official types and fans of it for many years and past players have said, apart from the brand damage to Optus, this is a dark day for Australian soccer.
Day.
Because you know
the darkest.
For every 4 years, the World Cup gives it a massive boost. Kick in the arm. But this year, to have this, to not be able to watch it.
Well, see, the best thing about the World Cup is, which I always loved from watching it as a young kid, and is being able to watch all the different teams, the different styles, and feel part of this world thing. And it is something that football has way above any other league,
there's no question,
and even union and especially AFL, right? So it's this fun thing. So something that it's not all that easily available is, the next generation don't get to be caught up in the tournament in the same way. And then if you're paying, and I'm paying, and I went on each night and couldn't get it, and I'm just like, what's the point of this?
$15.
That's I could just. So it's just mind-boggling to me that a telecommunications company, and then they go, the reason it's happened is because everyone's trying to watch it.
Lots of people wanted to watch it.
And you're like,
seriously?
That's kind of the thing. Like, that's not one of those surprise moments. They remind me of Ticket Tech when they used to go,
exactly.
Everyone tried to buy tickets at the same time.
They've been advertising for a month. Rolling Stones tickets on sale Monday the 15th from 9 a.m.
Yeah.
And then at 9:05, the whole thing crashes and Ticket Tech goes, geez, there was a lot of people trying to buy tickets. Really? You think?
It's just bizarre.
And see, on the other hand, I mean, you'd be incredibly frustrated if you've paid for the app and you can't watch it and all that. But then I was thinking, do we whinge too much about this sort of stuff?
Because there's nothing more. The problem is they've bid on it and taken it away from free to air or even Foxtel. Like, as much as people hate Foxtel and it's bloody expensive, and why would you? There's not a lot on it but sport. But when you look at that, at least Foxtel, to their credit, almost always, it's a stable platform you can actually watch what you pay for, right? It's fallen over a few times in my entire time I've had it for something, and even then it's briefly. So to me, if you're going to offer a product like this, and in a time-sensitive thing, this isn't something like that, we can watch it tomorrow or something. Like, you want to get into live broadcasting of sport, then you've got to be able to actually do it.
Yeah.
Because people spend a fortune and wait. Otherwise, they would go and find other ways. Now, I heard people saying to me on Twitter, messaging me saying they were having better luck going to Reddit and finding illegal streams and watching those than So these were people who had willingly, legally paid and were forced to do illegal streams to watch it.
Exactly. I was reading...
No wonder I'm pirates in Australia when we can't get access to half the stuff anymore.
I was reading some blokes on Twitter, and I didn't quite understand what half of them were saying, but one of them said, and I've worked it out, if I plug an HDMI cable into my Apple TV and then reroute it through this other app, not the Optus one, it comes up beautifully well on my, MacBook Air. And I go, Matt, it seems a hell of a lot of trouble rather than just picking up your remote and
so that's the problem. I think if you're going to bid for these things, and Optus had a lot of trouble with the Premier League in the start.
Yeah.
They seem to have got some of that down now, but at the same time, this is... You don't get a second chance. You kind of have to get this right first time. Yeah. It's like, you can't do whenever you offer a product, if you and I booked a show and then we both don't show up, or we show up...
people have argued that's already occurred.
But you can't then go, still give us your money.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a time-sensitive thing, you can't go, we'll come back another night.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that.
It was
offered something
Channel 7
for sale.
with the Winter Olympics in Sochi. The first night they had similar problems and people were arcing up. And, didn't realise so many people want to watch the Winter Olympics. I said, come on, Channel 7, get it together. Yeah. And to their credit, the next day they did. It was fine.
The thing with Channel 7 at least is they're also showing it on their own channel, so you go and catch most of it. This is, if you miss a match, you miss the match. It's done.
But as you say, for a communications company and a broadcast company like Optus, it's just, it's disastrous and it's incompetent and it's just on every level. It's just not good enough.
Yeah. Tips wrote in, would anyone mind if the one day series was streamed on Optus? I don't think anyone would notice. It got like about 100,000 people watch it compared to about 2.3 million watch. Oh, I think it was higher for the Socceroos. Yeah. So the one day, I mean, cricket did last week.
The Socceroos figures were astounding Saturday night,
Well, World Cup once every 4 years, good matchup on at 8 o'clock, perfect timing.
Yeah.
The thing I found interesting last week, just talking of cricket, because the one day, who cared about the one day? It'd be interesting. I haven't seen the ratings for the rugby union, the Wallabies Island game. But the one thing I find interesting with Cricket Australia last week is there was this huge reaction because the story went up, I think it was on 9 MSN, that they were going to not sign the ABC for radio rights.
Right, ABC.
Now, it turned out that was a rumour and they actually have.
Mm.
What was interesting about their reaction is not so much, even when Cricket Australia came out and said, that story's not true, they're still in the mix.
Yeah.
And they've since actually announced who has going to have it.
Yeah.
The lack of public trust of Cricket Australia.
That's true.
Is the real story in this. So Cricket Australia in the end have done, I think, the right thing in keeping it with the ABC because there's a lot of areas that can't get it without, and it's 80 years of tradition.
And I know it's all money these days and there's no romance or tradition in anything, especially the media. But there is something about cricket on the ABC. They've been doing it since Bradman was playing.
That's right. And it's a national sport.
Just keep it there.
You need to be able to get to the whole of the nation, the regional rules. So I'm glad they've kept it. But it was interesting that everyone panicked to the rumour, including me, and I admit the whole reason is because it was totally believable with Cricket Australia.
Yeah.
Totally believable.
You would not have batted an eyelid if they'd sold their soul.
And that's where they've got to me. I know that sounds like a bit like, we're bagging them for something they didn't do, but I'm happy to bag them for stuff they have done, but they as an organisation have got to a point where the Australian public's trust in them, not the cricket team, the actual Cricket Australia, is the point where that rumour, which would have been far-fetched or should be far-fetched, everyone was like, I could totally see them doing this.
Yeah, and a few years ago it could have been easily shot down in seconds by Cricket Australia.
But even when they did come and shoot it down, everyone was like, well, we don't believe you or we don't trust you.
Until we see what
it's a bit like the AFL with the grand final twilight.
Yeah.
They keep saying no, but we don't trust that they're not going to do it at some point. And
I don't trust them not to hire Bon Jovi this year either.
Apart from Optus, we had an interesting one in Sweden. Have had to apologise for spying on South Korea at the World Cup, at their pre-World Cup training camp.
Right.
Now,
Sweden spying on the South Koreans. Now, apparently there was it was a closed session and they didn't know this. So this is the most non-diplomatic, the non-confrontation thing. The Swedes said they thought it was an open training camp. So they go along and they're watching, and then they're going to be playing them soon. Yeah.
The South Koreans come along and say, this is a closed training session. And so therefore the scout leaves.
Right.
So hardly a huge problem. But then watch from a distance. Now, to me, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But anyway, he said that they're still going to he still apologised for it. Now, the South Koreans, in fairness to them, basically their coach or manager came out and said that he in no way found it disrespectful, that in fact all managers try and get as much information on the opposition, and that kind of shows you respect them, like if you didn't care.
Yeah.
And so he had no problem. But the manager, Shin, came up with this terrific quote of what they did in response once they realised that they were being watched.
The Swedes were watching
from afar. After they kicked him out of the ground, he found a vantage point he could still see. He said that they had used their own ruse, therefore, where they made their players use different shirt numbers to make it a bit more confusing. And he said, we switched them around because we didn't want to show everything and to try and confuse them. They might know a few of our players, but it's very difficult for Westerners to distinguish between Asians, and that's why we did it.
all as us Asians, we all look the same to you Westerners.
How good is that? Oh,
it's great. It's coming from that side.
Yeah, the Swede. like, he should have then added all Swedes look the same to us, but all ridiculously good looking and muscly and
tall
blonde.
And blonde,
Yeah. What a stereotype.
And they've all just stepped naked out of a sauna next to a fjord.
Terrible stereotype to have. But I just love that. Tall Westerners, we all look the same, so we just switch the numbers.
Put the numbers.
And you know what? The scout's probably going, I can't tell them apart since they've switched the numbers. This is terrible.
Well, I may have to get the Optus app because now I want to watch Sweden versus South Korea.
That's right. It's so good.
See if they do all look the same.
Yeah, that's what they say. That was great. All Westerners. One of the more interesting stories out of the World Cup last week, and we've got some more developments on it, is World Cup fans. There was a rumour, or not a rumour, but a Russian politician came out. Tamara Pletnova said that she urged Russian women not to become amorous with foreign fans in town to watch the World Cup. Now, She was asked about this because there's a phenomenon I wasn't really aware of but makes a lot of sense, which is something called World Cup babies, which are, people all go to the World Cup.
Yeah.
They mingle with each other.
So she's suggesting what she doesn't want.
Some unplanned pregnancies come out, and some might end up in, they hook up forever. Who knows? I don't know, but a lot don't. But anyway, she's saying that it would basically. She said that nothing good will come out of the inappropriate behaviour of Russian women, and she
James Bond movie.
Yeah, and she accused them of warned women to not have sex with foreigners, basically.
That's probably good
Which
advice.
Francis Leach told me was shattered to hear.
Well, see, I reckon that's good advice when the fanatics are in town.
You're with her. You're with her. You're like, absolutely. That's very true, actually. If you want to keep your gene pool pretty clean, keep the fanatics
Stay
out
away
of it.
from the fanatics.
It's the one time I'm actually quite happy with the sort of level of racism when it's directed at the fanatics. So anyway, it's got to the point where this caused a lot of accusations of racism, basically. And so instead, Vladimir Putin had to come in and overturn roughly the ban and say,
he doesn't mind overturning a rule.
Given the women of Russia permission to sleep with the men of the world if they want to.
Okay.
The spokesman said, this has nothing to do with the World Cup. As for the women of Russia, they can handle anything themselves.
Except the South Koreans, because they all look the same.
That's right. Now I've got to love the World Cup. All this nonsense that flows into it around it.
It's I always get vaguely interested in it, but now the more we talk about it, I'm more. I can't wait.
Yeah, we pick the real topics that people care about. Yeah. So the good news for people in Russia, you can sleep with the women there. And the women probably won't want to sleep with you. That's where the real problem creeps in.
And if you've ever received an unsolicited approach on Instagram, you'll know those Russian chicks are pretty tidy.
Yeah, I've got a bunch trying to would like to talk more. So anyway, that's interesting. Getting on to AFL, we had it was a lot of buys this week, but we had some quite astounding results. Sydney obviously beat West Coast.
Fixed up West Coast.
So that was probably in terms of top of the round. Port won as well, beat the Bulldogs. Bulldogs had a terrible night. One of the worst. They had
I got every tip this week.
Yeah, I did too. Every thanks to St Kilda and the Suns, but every it seems like every Bulldog's injured now. Like Easton Wood went down. Yeah. They just got injured. They had.
I know they've got a lot of injuries, but has there been this is sort of an open-ended question, but has there been a team fall off the perch as badly as they have after a premiership?
Well, the only thing comparable close in a way, or there has been, but Adelaide as well after making the grand final, looking pretty bad. But
they look pretty shocking.
As you said, success is like vodka; it's not for everyone, exactly. And that applies very much to the Bulldogs. We then, of course, had an interesting Saturday of results. Now, I was watching this expecting not much, but Carlton play Freo. And did you watch it?
I did. I switched it on early in the second quarter, and I've just seen Carlton 6, Fremantle 59.
No, I think they were 4.
Yeah.
So I think it was 77-4 at half time.
77-7 it was at half time.
7 was it, right?
70 points. And I thought, now I've got to watch the second half because obviously Carlton aren't going to win the game.
You missed the first quarter.
I'm hoping for 150-point shellacking here. But didn't occur. But
I'm pretty sure Freo at second half, at half time, actually just boarded the plane back to Perth.
Yeah, our job here is done.
Yeah, they were. I mean, it was Brendan Bolton talked about how they kind of made a good fight back. It was disaster, but a good fight. I'm like, Freo were just let's not get injured, guys. This is done. We've done our day's work.
Lachie Neale's first half was just spectacular.
Carlton was so bad.
But Carlton, that's what I was going to say. But some of their stars, the Freo stars, I say Neale and Fife, they played really well.
Yeah.
But Carlton were appalling in that first half.
Well, 0 goals to 12 first half.
But there were a couple of coast to coasts where Carlton players, wear that old cliche about witches' hats, training drills. They just looked like half the team. Half the team looked like they couldn't be bothered, and the other half looked like they just certainly didn't belong out there. They're a team full of a couple of potentials, in Cripps and the Kernos, and a whole big bunch of list cloggers at Carlton.
Well, the fact that every year the Giants just back up the dump truck and dump them all their trash on them and they take them, it's kind of amazing. You knew it was bad because they sent out their football boss, Andrew McKay, on all the Sunday footy shows to basically talk up why they were what they were and how the list build was on track.
They're always on track at Carlton.
Yeah, if you're a Carlton supporter, you'd be going, I've heard all this before. He said that they haven't gone after any A-grade talent. They've just been recruiting young players, and the mature talent they've brought in, he said, haven't been A-grade. So that's a nice little whack to anyone they've brought in the last... You haven't been A-grade. Because he said if they got A-grade talent now, they'd leave by the time the young talent matures. Now, that to me...
that's one of the most bizarre things I've ever heard.
Because the one thing I learnt out of Melbourne's Neild experience is when you get rid of any veteran players and just have lots of young guys, there's no leadership or teaching of standards or anything happening at all.
Well, look at St Kilda. They lost Rewald, Montagna, Lenny Hayes a couple of years ago, and they pushed some of those guys out. And look how bad they've been this year.
Yeah.
It's full of youngsters who just aren't up to it
But
yet.
did you see Simon Lethlean? Nick Rewalt came out and was pretty scathing of St Kilda. And then Simon Lethlean came out and said Rewalt in his last, had been quite a selfish player, basically, or words to those effects. And I'm like, oh, Simon, you can't really talk about being selfish.
Yeah, no. I wouldn't be.
I would not put your head above the parapet on that issue.
Yeah, I'd be getting right back in my box on that one.
And how good is it the new footy manager bagging one of their clubs, arguably one of their all-time greats? Like, he's not going to win that fight.
He's not coming out and whacking Grant Thomas.
Yeah,
it's Nick Rewalt, their greatest player, possibly since Trevor Barker.
Yeah, that's right.
Since Trevor Barker or Darryl Bullock.
And his leaving has shown how much he carried that team.
Yeah, and it shows that he still cares more than arguably half the people who work at St Kilda.
Oh, it's unbelievable. I mean, the fact that they went and got Simon Lethlean after what happened at the AFL sort of shows where they're at the moment.
And they're doing it's the Lethlean review from top to bottom. Yeah.
That's just what they need. Remember they had the road to 2020, I think it was, and they were about 5 years ago, and they were meant to be on track to win a premiership now. So, it just shows you never put a date of when you're going to...
The road to perdition. Yeah.
Perry Cunningham wrote, as a Freo fan, I'm wondering if Freo still get 4 points for beating a VFL side.
It's a fair call. Very fair comment.
Mark Hayward said, should the AFL grant the broadcast rights for all Carlton games to Optus to ensure nobody sees them?
Good question. And Mark Hayward has already realised that this week you can make anything a joke if you put Optus in it.
I can't believe Carlton is still going to have a Friday. I think they got a Friday night against the Suns or something.
No. There's July 13, Friday the 13th of July.
Yeah.
St Kilda versus Carlton.
That's right, yeah.
What a blockbuster that's going to be.
Brad Cater wrote in, with the Bulldogs and Crows struggling since making grand finals, are Carlton actually doing the smart thing to ensure their long-term success? Just best to avoid going anywhere near the grand final. I think our team's doing that too. The other sport that was other game that was amazing was the St Kilda versus the Suns. Now, this whole game, I was watching this straight after.
Yeah, I watched this game too.
This whole game, to me, looked like 39 points the Saints were down at one point, and at the final change they were 31 points down, and I just thought you could see in Alan Richardson's face that it's like, this is done. This is like, he's over. And then
at one stage you could see him texting his wife saying, "Can you pop in and pack up my desk?"
That's right. It's Seek over open on the
pick
computer.
Up my laptop and delete my browser history.
So anyway, then the Suns being the Suns, so Kilda decided they were going to have a fair run at it in the last quarter, and
they stopped.
I think Alan Richardson pulled them together at 3/4 time and said, "Now, if we lose this, I'm off, and you're going to get Scott Waters."
Yeah. Scott Waters will be back.
or Grant
or
Thomas.
Simon Lethley might appoint himself.
So it was amazing watching it because it started and you started to think, they're getting a bit close here.
Yeah.
They kicked 5 goals to none to win by 2 points, and it was just amazing to watch. And the relief on Alan Richardson's face as that last goal was kicked and as the siren went and singing the song.
That last goal of aggression.
Oh, it was great.
Yeah, that was. I mean, these days, players, coaches punch the air if they win the toss, But that was as a genuine punch to the air I reckon I've ever seen. From
the emotion
Richardson.
on his face was that was a guy that knew he just dodged a bullet.
Yeah.
Because even if he didn't get sacked this week,
he couldn't have lasted much longer.
That would have been,
that was a genuine save of the coach
for a fortnight.
Yeah. You'll see, I'd tip St Kilda. So on one hand, I'm thinking, geez, I'll be 100% this round if the Saints get up here. But I was also thinking, but it'll be a lot more interesting if they get beaten as to what's going to happen. Richo's, I wouldn't say that saved him for the whole season or next year. I know he's still got a couple of years.
No, I think it saved him for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, but he was.
In some ways, you could look at it and go, great they fought back, but God, it was for 3/4 they were insipid. And if they weren't against the Suns,
it would have been the other way around. If they'd stopped in the last quarter and the Suns had boxed on and won by 9 or 10,
that would have been.
He'd have been out of there now.
So, what's amazing is just how bad the Suns continue to be able to, their ability to manufacture terrible outcomes.
And poor old Stewie Dew, hasn't he been sold a pup?
Well, you wonder why he even went for it.
I guess he's been in the system for a number of years, and he was a very highly regarded assistant coach, and so here's his chance to the top level.
But that board's been terrible since day one.
Yeah.
I know they've changed some of the chairs changed, but the chair was there before. I think was still. I'm not sure if he still is, but he was then vice chair. He was the one that kept saying, we're going to win premiership in the next 3 years.
Yeah.
This was about 5 years ago. They've money in them list management and everything, the wasted money that they've had. I know they come and say, we're really good at a junior level, the people playing up here and all that. I'm like, but for the money they're spending,
and
you
Tony
could have run the best.
Coming out swinging at every.
Yeah, well, that's just the way he operates.
Yeah.
But you could have spent. They spent over $100 million there. Even if you didn't have an AFL side, but you gave half of that money to the Southport Sharks up there and said, here's for your junior development programs.
Yeah.
We'll keep the Lions. There'll be the Queensland team, but we'll invest. You would have had the same result.
You could be the feeder club for the entire Queensland.
I just don't get his logic that he goes, because there's an AFL club here, all these juniors are playing.
Mm.
Because what junior's going to look at the Suns and go, this is the sport for... Well, maybe kids aren't very coordinated. This is the sport for me.
But you've just got to look at the raw numbers. It doesn't matter whether it's in Queensland or Victoria. For every, I think, 3,000 kids who play Auskick, one of them might get drafted.
Yeah.
11 years later or 10 years later. So it's great on one hand that there's plenty of kids in Queensland playing footy.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean to say that too many of them are going to make it through to the big league.
Yeah.
And even if they do, that they're going to go to either Brisbane or the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work that way.
So I just found the whole thing bizarre with the Saints. With the Suns, they were just it's almost impossible to be 31 points up with a quarter to go playing St Kilda.
Mm.
It's almost impossible to lose from there. Like, I don't. I still, even though I watched it, I still don't know how it actually happened.
Well, even just before Gresham kicked that goal, I kept thinking, it's not a difficult thing for the Suns to do here. Is pack their back line and just jump on it, cause a stoppage, move it towards the boundary. But then there was that one, the stoppage where Gresham picked it up on the outside and kicked the winning goal.
Yeah.
That was just appalling by the Suns.
Yeah.
They should have. There were 3 St Kilda blokes on the outside, unmanned.
The only thing
you don't do that in the first quarter, let alone.
The only thing I'd say about Stewie Dew is he needs, like, they got to give him a minimum. It's a bit like with Hardwick, where Gale said about Hardwick, well, he inherited such a bad list.
Yeah.
That you almost need to give him 5 years minimum. Like, this is the thing. Like, you kind of, they're that far away from being anything, you know? Like,
if they start losing players like Lynch and everyone else, how are they going to replace them?
Brent Pearce wrote, who is going better, Optus or the Gold Coast Suns?
There you
Continuing
go,
our Optus. Jared Wilson wrote in, do the Gold Coast Suns look back at the Carmichael Hunt era as their most successful period?
God, I'd forgotten about Carmichael Hunt.
Yeah, when he got them all on drugs and they all got caught up in an ACC probe.
Jeez, in their short history,
this is my point all along about them. They've been, like
a disaster.
The Giants have been well run compared to, I'm not saying like the Giants have been a huge success, but at least they haven't. They had Israel Folau. That all got foisted on them all with the the ambassador stuff. So, but they at least got the slightly better one of the two in terms of not setting up a drug ring.
Yeah, they've got the homophobic one.
Yeah, do you want the druggie or the homophobic one? Take your pick. Why not have both?
I'll get Mitchell Pearce just for the bubbling trifecta.
So when you look at it, it's been a pretty weird. Like, they've had a lot of problems. Yeah. And a lot of it also, I sheet home some of the blame the AFL because they set them up and they were in tin portable sheds and they were not set up for success in some ways themselves. But then it seemed like their board had no clue what they would do. Like, there's just a litany of problems that they've had. The Fitzpatrick Demetrio
but this is where the
era,
AFL, I mean, they've been down this road before. It's like when South Melbourne, the Swans, first went to Sydney. Same thing. They were in like portables and things like that, and in the middle of nowhere. And they had no gym, and they had to share it. And they were training. I remember when Rodney Eade was coaching. They had to train miles away because their normal ground was being used by school footy that afternoon. And you think, geez, organise this well. I'm just saying, to start again from scratch, they still made all these same stupid basic errors, and it comes down to money as well. And sure, they go, well, we spent 100 mil. I said, but if you spend it wisely, you probably could have got away with it for 50 or 60.
Well, that's the problem too. Like, the Demetrio Fitzpatrick era was marked by, like, the Essendon saga.
Yeah.
Which they mismanaged, you couldn't have mismanaged that.
It's almost the appropriate way to finish that era.
Yeah, that's right. Then you had the expansion, right, is their big strategic move.
Yeah.
Now, they point to huge television revenue, but that was at a point where television revenue in sport was going up massively globally. Yeah. So there's just the only thing they hang their hat on is something that was nothing to do with them.
Yeah. Yeah, we were saying that last week. I mean, so at that point, and it's not just AFL, it's all the sports. And cricket was the same. They're all bragging. They've all had those bragging rights about how much money we've got for the new broadcast deal.
Yeah.
But you could have sold it to anybody. But now they're going to find it a lot harder because your broadcast deal has to cover so many more outlets and digital rights. And
it's all changing now because,
it's all changing. I mean, now you can theoretically watch anything live on your phone.
Yeah, that's right.
Any time of the night. Even a soccer match from Kazakhstan.
Occasionally you can.
Yeah.
Remember back on May 25th, the Collingwood Bulldogs game, I think it was in the Medallion Club. Yeah, it was. There was that huge big brawl.
Oh, yeah, this was a beauty.
Which got filmed and everything. One of the businessmen that got slapped with a life ban from Etihad Stadium over his involvement, it says alleged here, but he's already been banned. I guess there's a court case to come. Guy called Paul Finn. He was charged with intentionally causing injury, affray, possessing cocaine, and resisting police. That's a good trifecta.
Who hasn't had that after a day at the footy.
So he's the first person believed to ever get a permanent ban from Docklands. Now, as part of that, he's also had his AFL membership cancelled.
What's the
and
real punishment?
an indefinite ban from applying for club membership after the fight. Now, he runs a company called Prestige Global Events, which offers hospitality packages and premium tickets to AFL matches, including games at Etihad Stadium and the MCG.
See, I don't know much about Prestige Global Events, but any company that, is probably run out of a back office in Moorabbin, calls itself Global, and then you add the word prestige in there.
You're instantly a bit...
Yeah. It's like any car yard with honest in its title, you know.
So he offers... $100 tickets for the Medallion Club experience.
Has everyone getting king hit?
Yeah, king hit or with the Coke. So this was The Age actually found out about this. And so at the moment, he is, I think, challenging this. He's contesting all the charges. He said... his lawyer, I think, said the mobile phone footage obtained by Channel 9 of the brawl did not provide a fair or complete account of the incident. Now, he says he only got involved in the fight after someone said some things to a woman, offensive comments to a woman. Now, that to me is the new way to say...
Yeah.
Because I'm not saying you shouldn't step in that case, but that's the new one everyone says when they're in a brawl.
Somebody said something offensive to a woman in my party
so
or a
I'm
friend
a
of
good
mine.
guy.
So I will go and
which is making a
glass
wild brawl.
these opposition supporters. You know?
The AFL came out and said that there was no official affiliation between Prestige Global Events and the AFL. So he's basically said, well, I imagine they didn't even know this guy was doing this.
It'll wipe the hands of that.
Do you think they'll step in and stop him being able to do it?
What, sell those tickets? I think obviously the court case will probably have to pan out first, but
they've banned him from the stadium without the court case.
Banned for life from the stadium.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it's accused that he did these things in a legal sense, so he's got to go to court. So it's all alleged, but at the same time,
they can still ban him
Stadium's
from the
already
stadium.
banned him, so he's like in their mind he's guilty. So it'll be interesting to see if they let him continue to do that.
It was like the MCG the other week. I saw a young bloke get kicked out of the members for having ripped jeans.
Well, that's where you should have a life ban.
Yeah, I was like, don't ever come back, you know.
Who's raising these people? So anyway, that's kind of interesting. Phil Mickelson, your favourite golfer.
Oh, yeah.
At the US Open, he got in a bit of trouble. He hit his ball and then he hit it again, which is a massive breach of golf etiquette.
Well, a bit of background. The US Open's just completed this morning at Shinnecock Hills in New York. And every year it seems to be a controversy at the US Open, one of the four majors, because the US Golf Association, they find a good course and then they trick it up to make it as hard as possible for the players.
Yeah.
Now their rationale for that is to say, we make it hard, but they're supposedly the best players, and we're just trying to find out the very best.
Yeah.
Whereas the players go, well, yeah, you can do whatever you like, but there's a limit. And what they did, they had the greens cut so short that the balls were just running off the greens.
Hit it too fast.
Yeah, and this is what happened to Phil. Now he was struggling on this hole. He's putted it past the hole and then it's taken off, and you could see it was obviously going to roll right down the front of the green. So he's stopped it halfway and belted it back while it's moving. Now this is a cardinal sin in golf.
Yes.
He copped a 2-shot penalty. It meant he took a 10 on the hole, but a lot of golf traditionalists and old ex-players are saying he should have been disqualified from the whole event.
Even if your current ones were not particularly happy about it. This is where he tried to downplay it and said, if someone is offended, I apologise, but toughen up. Now, that doesn't sound like an apology to me.
No, it doesn't.
When you add, I apologise, but you need to toughen up.
You need to toughen up.
That doesn't really seem like you're giving me a heartfelt, like I'm apologising for my actions.
See, this is the thing about Phil Mickelson. You say he's not my favourite golfer. Phil has worked his PR and his image beautifully in the States with the golfing, the fraternity who follow the supporters at every event. He seems like the good bloke. and he gives a ball to the kids, and he signs a cap, and he's always friendly, and he smiles and laughs to the galleries. But you talk to any of the players on the tour, and they reckon he is a shocking piece of work. I reckon he's a gambler, and you name something shocking done by a golfer, and every other golfer.
Remember, there's that golf quiz that gets done at the PGA. It's like a questionnaire. The PGA players get surveyed every year, and one of the questions is, who would you least likely step in to save in a fight?
Yeah.
That's a question they ask them. And I think he doesn't do well on that, but the guy who won, what was it, the last major?
Patrick Reed, who won the Masters.
He's
not all that popular either.
He gets voted the guy least likely for you to help if he's in a fight.
So Phil Mickelson was basically accused of cheating, And
it is cheating.
Which is just completely, unacceptable in golf on any level, especially at professional level.
And he's not reacted to it well. Like if he'd said, I had a lapse where I just lost it and I really should have, and I'm ashamed of myself, everyone would go, all right. But because he came out and acted like everyone else was a jerk.
And he did say, he said, look, I decided I'd rather take a 2-shot penalty than play the ball from where it would have ended up. But it
doesn't really work like that.
That's not how it works. You hit the ball behind a tree.
Yeah.
You don't just kick it out.
Yeah.
Or you might. Dave Warner probably would.
Well,
imagine playing golf with Phil Mickelson and Dave Warner.
Old school jock said, with Phil Mickelson's blatant cheating at golf, could he be harbouring ambitions to fast track himself into the Channel 9 commentary team?
There you go. Dave Warner all over again.
Listeners' questions. Brian Haynes said, how can I be expected to be a good father and husband when there is a World Cup, one day cricket, AFL and State of Origin on TV? Brian, I don't imagine you are a good husband.
No, but if you want to earn some points, just ignore the one-dayers. Everybody else has.
No, that's right. That's where you do your family time. But I think most of the women I know are fanatical sports fans. That might say more about me. So that's what I would recommend. There's plenty of good women out there who love sport. Yeah. Just, marry a good one. Daniel Fernley said, why? Oh, this is a controversial one. Came off the long run, Daniel. Why do Turkish Delights have such a bad reputation when crunchies are the worst part of a Cadbury favourites box?
Oh, can't come at this one. I enjoy the crunchy.
Oh, see, I've got no issue with a crunchy, but a Turkish Delight, I find the devil's chocolate.
Most people hate the Turkish Delight.
I hate Do you hate the Turkish Delight?
Yeah, I hate the Turkish Delight.
Yeah. I don't know why he's whacked crunchies.
Yeah, and
but anyway, I'm happy to share a box with Daniel because I'll get the crunchies and he'll get the Turkish Delight and we're all happy.
Daniel, you're not going to win too many friends sticking up for Turkish Delights. Especially not in World Cup time.
Gee, we just don't need this. We don't need this angst, Daniel.
No, we don't.
Do you think Daniel's just trolling everyone? Because I kind of respect that in a way.
I think he is because he knows.
He's picked crunchies, which are a popular one.
I reckon he knows everybody likes the crunchies.
Yeah.
And so you'll go, you're right, I'll bag the crunchies and I'll come out on the side of your Turkish Delight.
Just set the world on fire.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you cherry ripes, not your Turkish Delight.
Now, Matt Froster's got a relationship I can really respect. Bulldogs lost, Wallabies lost, Socceroos lost, and the cricket team lost, but I drew level with my wife in footy tips with a perfect round. Is it wrong to see this weekend as a win? No, it's a big win for you.
You take a win wherever you get it, Matt.
I've got two friends, husband and wife, and one's an Essendon supporter, and one's a Collingwood supporter, and they are both mad supporters, right?
Like, what do they do on Anzac Day?
They go, and I know because I've spoken to them regularly about this. They, with no sense of, like, they're very nice, funny people normally.
Yeah.
But on that day,
all bets are off.
Whoever wins, like the wife, she sometimes when Essendon have won, won't speak to her husband for a couple of days. And I respect them to hell. That is the best thing I've ever heard.
Do they punch on in the medallion
Not
club?
quite, yeah. Not quite, but they genuinely, like, they're hardcore fans.
Yeah, good on them. I respect.
I do too.
I respect them because they're hardcore footy fans, and the good thing is usually someone who is not going to speak to their partner because their team lost. That's usually an idiot bloke. But the fact that she takes it that seriously,
oh, they're both hardcore. They're both
good
hardcore. They know their stuff, and like they're very good at it. They really love it, and they get very upset. And I'm like, I can totally get that. Sean Brennan wrote in, when was the last time a group of, this is in regard to Germany lost to Mexico 1-0 last night. Right. You wouldn't know that if you're watching on Optus. Sean Brennan wrote in, when was the last time a group of Germans performed so far below expectations on Russian soil?
He's linked about 5 great things into that one.
Good.
I might be going a bit early, but he's my vote for the T-shirt.
He's the clubhouse leader.
Yeah.
Andrew Francis. So, just to set this up, this section, we've got 3 questions. They're all aimed at you.
Me.
So people really love to. They want to get. They want to understand. They want to know more about the enigma that is Sergio Paradise. Andrew Francis said, "Is this lucrative podcast the only thing Sergio requires to give him the lavish lifestyle he's become accustomed to? Holidays, golf clubs, private hospital rooms." It's only after Andrew mentioned this that I realised what a life you've lived, because you do every time on the podcast, and you don't do it in a big note anyway, but you're like, oh yeah, when I was in this or when I was in that. This is the sort of life you can lead on podcast money.
On podcast money, yeah.
A lot of people don't know this, but you made a lot of money in business with Bob and Thompson.
Yeah, but in the early days.
No, you're the...
Before he got in with the Comancheros.
You're the Mr. Big behind Bob and Thompson. No, you're fine, Bob. We'll just leave all it in your house.
Yeah, you'll be right. Yeah, there's a couple of blokes.
Put a lock on your bedroom door.
I know a couple of blokes in the Finks who'll look after the joint,
Next question for you, Grant Searmans. This kind of ties in, but they were unrelated when they came in. Wondering when Sergio will be publishing his book, World's Greatest Beach Bars with Buckets of Beer.
I think Grant, because I mentioned last week, Sentosa, where Trump was meeting Kim Jong-un.
Yeah.
Sentosa in Singapore, an island there, it does have some great beach bars.
Every political event you could probably break down to a bar or something.
Yeah. Great beach bars.
This is the lens you view the world through.
Yeah, you can sit there. It's always stinking hot in Singapore. You can sit there in a bar where there's the floor is sand, which is great. The table is an upturned barrel, and you can get a bucket of Coronas for $10.
Sounds amazing.
Look, the book, as Grant suggested, World's Greatest Beach Bars with Buckets of Beers. You don't need the word greatest in there.
Because they're all great.
Any beach bar with a bucket of beer is great.
You got to admit, you've done the research part of the book.
Oh, exactly. I could name dozens of them.
That's it. That's how you could maintain your lavish lifestyle. Just people could pay to come have a beer with you at the various bars you're at. You're always at one.
And that's why I'll need the
No wonder you're in
private hospital.
No wonder you're in hospital every 5 minutes. Such a shock. Too Long in the Bush wrote in. It's his birthday, he says.
Happy birthday, Too Long
for
in the
my
Bush.
birthday, can you get Serge to just pick a target and let rip for about 5 minutes with little care for innocents and passers-by? I don't know if that separates this out from the entire rest of the podcast, but you did give both barrels to France.
I gave France a fair whack,
which I think that's for Too Long in the Bush.
Yeah, just play the opening 5 minutes again.
Of the French.
Yeah.
What country do you hate the most at the World Cup?
Oh, probably France.
Really?
Yeah. None of the others bother me greatly.
No, don't bother you.
I'm sort of on the South Korean side now, just because they've proven that they're funny guys.
Yeah.
Swedes, I don't really care
about.
Russians, yeah. Well, now that they've encouraged the Russian women to sleep with.
Oh, you've come around. You forget that they blow planes out of the sky, but they'll let the women sleep with you, and you've come around.
Look. To be honest, I don't really care about any of them much. None of them are. Yeah, the fun countries.
What about the ones that maybe ban alcohol?
Yeah, well, see, most of them.
Saudi Arabia over there.
Did they qualify?
Yeah, they lost to Russia in the opening round.
Qatar or Dubai. They're not.
Qatar can only buy a World Cup. They can't play in it.
Yeah. But most of those anti-alcohol Muslim countries, you can't cop them.
I like how the problem you have though is the anti-alcohol.
I
don't get I don't get this anti-halal stuff. Don't care about that. Yeah. But anti-alcohol, come on.
And cutting off your hand if you
steal something.
I mean, that's going a bit far.
That's where you draw the line.
Draw the line. Sword through the wrist.
It's intentional. Die. Well, on that funny note, avoiding several things, we should say we'll see you at a beach bar.
Yeah, beach bar. Yeah.
We're off to one now.
If you can find one that sells a bucket of Coronas for under $10, let us know.
I tell you, that is a good price for it because Coronas are about $30 for one in Melbourne.
I was about to say, and in a lot of swish-looking bars, Corona will cost you $7 or $8
at least. Yeah.
More if you want lime.
The price of this is a topic to get fired up. The price of alcohol in bars in Sydney and Melbourne, especially, here in Australia, I remember at $2.50 pots.
Oh, exactly.
You remember when they were a shilling.
and you used to have to get them in real quick because of the 6 o'clock swill. Which I think went out in about 1953.
Oh, they were tough times.
Oh, they were. Going straight off the factory floor.
That was great when they used to just everyone would have to drink all their beers and then they'd kick them out onto the street.
Yeah, you'd come straight off the factory floor, you'd have 50 pots, you'd punch someone in the Medallion bar and you'd be back out on Collins Street before it was dark.
Are you shocked that the guy involved in the wild brawl had cocaine on him?
Does it make you aggressive? I don't know.
I think it probably makes your judgment the confidence to think that you can participate in a brawl probably goes through the roof.
Exactly, especially you've been on the grog all afternoon as well.
Well, on that note, we'll see you later in the week.